Good evening. I call this Lower Macungie Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Today is July 14th, 2026, and the time is 6:02. Roll call. All planning commissioners are present except for Ozias Moore, which means we do have a quorum. Also in attendance is Director of Community Development Vince Trangooch, Township Solicitor Mark Fisher, Township Engineer Megan McKeon, Township Zoning Officer Chris Russo, and Township Planner Nathan Jones. Just a reminder for all those that are going to be speaking tonight, please speak clearly into the microphone so the meeting is properly recorded. First order of business is item 3.1 on the agenda, reappointment of a new Planning Commission Secretary. Since our last meeting, Jessica Rosenbrook resigned from her seat on the commission. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to thank Jessica for her time that she served her community. At this time, we do need to appoint a new secretary, and I'd like to ask Nate just to give a brief overview of what those duties entail.
Certainly, thank you. What we generally have for our secretary is officially the keeping of records, but given the fact that we have a 5-member board, one of the most important parts of the secretary position is to serve as alternate vice chair or even potentially chair of a meeting in the event that we have absences. And that would be the line of succession for leadership during a meeting when we're conducting regular business. But again, with staff and our complement of staff helping with the keeping of records and whatnot, the primary really does go with management and leadership in meetings.
All right, great, thank you. Do I hear a nomination for the Planning Commission Secretary?
I nominate Rick.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Yeah, sure. Do I need
To second his own nomination? I'll second that, sure. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, the motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Second order of business is the approval of the minutes from the June 9th, 2026 meeting. Have all the Planning Commissioners members had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes.
We have.
Are there any corrections or comments to note?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next agenda item, 5.1, 4801 and 4925 East Texas Road, the Montclair Reserve Subdivision Sketch Plan. So for this presentation, I'd like to invite Nate first to speak to the application itself. I'll then give the opportunity to the applicant to speak to the project. Then I'll go to Megan for the Township Engineer's comments. I'll open it up to the commissioners, and then finally to the public. So with that, Nate.
Thank you, Chairman Kennedy. This is a sketch plan. I think it's important for those watching from home and who are members of the audience, just as a bit of brief background, that there is no formal engineering on this yet, and there are certain components of our land development process that's dictated by our ordinances and by state law that are not included as part of this submission. So it is conceptual in nature. We, at the staff level, have had a pre-application meeting with the applicant several months ago to talk about the site and the general area in the township. And as always, we bring up the importance of traffic impact in the township. Specifically, if you look at the site here, there are 84 residential units proposed on this lot. It's an infill development surrounded by existing neighborhoods and the Pennsylvania Northeast extension of the Turnpike to the immediate east. There is an emergency access onto Celia Drive for emergency purposes, be it the state police or the fire department or ambulance if necessary, but primary access is taken to and from East Texas Road. The township staff has impressed upon the applicant the importance of recognizing traffic impacts in the township, but we do not have a traffic study at this time because it's only a sketch plan. So we do not know the exact specifics of that impact, But what I will say is that this is something that is of great concern to township staff to make sure that impact is mitigated. Secondarily, as always, stormwater is a major issue in the township. The 84-unit subdivision of these single-family homes does have 10 basins. These basins do not have a full hydrological study attached to them, so we do not have full engineered plans about how they are going to operate, how they're going to flow. We just know that there are 10 basins that are provided both for water quality and stormwater management in storm-related and rain situations. Again, what we will be looking for at the time of any formal development is the importance of no impact to other existing residences and neighborhoods in the township. As everyone is aware, when we get large storm events, we do experience flooding in the township, and we need to mitigate that to the best of our capabilities for our residents. Additional important planning-related items that were discussed with the applicant at the time of our pre-application meeting was a focus on natural preservation. This site is unlike a lot of other sites in the township where we've previously developed, or have had developed, I should say, existing farm fields. There is a fair amount of forestation on this site at the southeast corner and on the western end. The township engineer has visited the site with the RLA as well as with the applicant to look at this a little bit further. I would note that our township zoning ordinance and our subdivision and land development ordinance both call for the preservation of its existing natural features, and it's incredibly important, especially for this site, having such mature trees that as many of the trees, especially those of high value, are preserved. I would note that a number of homes at the western end of the site, the southeastern end of the site, and including the southern basin are all in areas that are densely forested right now. So that is something that we need to talk about at greater length. In addition to that, as everyone is aware, potentially at home as well as here in the meeting this evening, the Pennsylvania Turnpike has been replacing bridges from south to north as part of the widening project. This lot immediately abuts the Turnpike and immediately abuts East Texas Road, which is going to have a bridge replacement in the near future. And we just want to make sure that there is coordination between the applicant and the Turnpike Authority to make sure that there is no negative impact or that they would get started on a formal design that could be impacted by that bridge replacement. So we would ask that there be coordination in that before any formal submission is made to the township. The applicants did also include a pathway around the perimeter of the site. We appreciate trails and paths in the township always. The only concern that we have here is that it does abut existing residential units in the existing neighborhoods, and it may be wiser to look at the eastern end of the site where there's more buffer area, just in the event to recognize that existing residents have been in those neighborhoods now for a number of decades. So we just want to make sure we mitigate impact to those residents. Last but not least, of importance that was identified by our township engineer, and we've been working with it in a number of subdivisions in the township for quite some time. There are some existing natural features because of our karst geology, as everyone is aware, where we want to ensure that as this site is looked to be developed, there are potential closed depressions that should be looked at with extreme caution just for health, safety, and welfare purposes because of residences and roads going in this area. We are also always very mindful of sinkhole-related items, and we want to make sure that some of these existing geologic features are studied and respected just for health, safety, and welfare moving forward. Last but not least, on our report, the Township Zoning Officer and I did look into the ordinance regarding the required net out of spaces for lot sizes, and we just want to ensure that for the overall subdivision, but also for each of the individual lots, we recognize that utility areas are respected so that the end users have enough space to be able to enjoy their property when all is said and done, because one of the first things that happens in any new subdivision is the request for sheds, pools, fences, patios, and decks. So we want to make sure that the existing proposed lots allow for enough space for those, because it's the number one thing that we get as soon as homes start getting built. So that's the extent of our planning related comments. We have a great number of items that we hope prior to any future submission of a future sketch plan or a preliminary plan, we can either meet with the applicant again, or we get handled either in an offline meeting or in further discussion, just to make sure that those items are addressed. But I would like to hand it over to the township engineer, as a lot of technical study on the sketch still was taking place, to make sure that we have everything lined up in advance to provide the best feedback possible for the applicants.
Okay, does the applicant want to introduce themselves? And if you want to give us a brief overview of the project itself, and then we'll go to Megan.
Glad to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joseph Zader. I'm legal counsel for the project, and I probably am a new face to several of you up there, so let me just say that I have about 30 years of experience representing clients in this township. I've probably been to 200 public meetings for Jandal alone over those years, Hamilton Crossings, the list of project goes on. So I look forward to collaborating with you, because that's the way that I always try to operate, is collaboration, certainly wherever possible. I have worked considerably with Mark Fisher, with Vince, with Nate for the years that they've been here. So we look forward to this. Sitting to my left, your right, is the manager for this project, Mickey Thompson, who has roots here in the Lehigh Valley and happens to be an attorney as well. Luke Teller from Langen Engineering, my left, and Cindy Feinberg, our broker, is part of the team back here as well. The developer, as you know from the application, is Chatham Creek LLC, which is an entity formed for this particular project, but the actual builder behind this is Keystone Custom Homes. And Keystone is a substantial regional organization headquartered in Lancaster. They are new to Lower Macungie, but not new to the Lehigh Valley. In fact, the way I've met these gentlemen at Chatham, at Keystone, is by representing other clients on the other side of the table. And I know it's probably cliche to say that this developer is a bit unique, but they really are. And I say that because the founder of the organization has effectively transferred 91% of the ownership to a foundation. And all the revenue, that foundation goes to a nonprofit organization called Hope International and serves people in 28 different countries. So it's kind of a unique developer in that regard. Montclair Reserve, as Nate said in his introduction, which, by the way, was quite thorough for a sketch plan, but I expected nothing less. 84 lots, building lots, and additional 5 lots with stormwater features and open space. And the plan will be talked about in more detail by Luke, our engineer from Langen. I have to admit that the township definition of lot area threw us for a loop a bit with all the exclusions. I mean, we're used to seeing rights-of-way excluded, of course, but when you get into ultimate right-of-way and easements, the list goes on. It's somewhat unusual, but we've worked through it, and we think we have a plan that will work for the township, and look forward to going through it over ensuing months. So with that said, I will provide an opportunity for Mickey to introduce himself and then Luke to take us through the plan. But as I said, wherever possible, we're about trying to collaborate and cooperate, and look forward to that in the ensuing months.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mickey Thompson. I'm the Vice President of Land and Counsel for Keystone Custom Homes. I've been there since 2024, so a couple years of work there, but previously, and I still am an attorney that practices. I lived in Lehigh Valley. I went to Moravian College, went to law school, came back, raised a family. 1999 was sworn in as a member of the bar, and left Lehigh Valley in 2019 to move back home to Maryland, where I now reside. So I've worked in various municipal land development capacities since I was a baby attorney all the way through to today. I've had an opportunity to go in-house in 2008 at a local company. When I moved to Maryland, I started working out of York, Pennsylvania, and subsequently I now work at Keystone Custom Homes. And one of the reasons why I chose to work at Keystone Custom Homes was really for the overriding purpose of the company. Many developers, national developers, are publicly owned and operated. They have shareholders that they have to report to. Other families are or other companies are mom and pop organizations, families that have lasted for 1, 2, 3, or not more generations. Keystone Custom Homes was founded in 1992 by the owner, Jeff Rutt, and subsequently to starting Keystone Custom Homes, he developed and created Hope International, which is a charity that operates all throughout the world, providing microfinancing for underrepresented and deserving communities that can't get access to capital through conventional means. They create microfinancing groups which help generate and help people live their dreams. Again, loans as little as $20 and as much as $5,000. Over the course of the existence of the charity, they have been able to get $300 million from people who have invested in those dreams, and through their ability to microfinance, they've been able to loan out over $2 billion over that time. So the things that we do at Keystone Custom Homes really impacts not only the lives of our vendors and our employees and those who are in our communities, but also those throughout the world. Right now, we are in 5 different states, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina. We roughly build about 600 homes a year. 95% of those are single-family homes. We are not a spec builder. We are a custom home builder. So when a resident or a prospective client comes to us, they engage in an interactive process of developing their own property in terms of the footprint of the building that's there and also the interior features. We have 2 projects right now that are ongoing in Upper Macungie. One is called Fallbrook Estates. It's roughly 94 single-family homes. They're very nice homes, very nice community. We just started a project in North Whitehall Township that's called Fusafells Creek, and we are about ready to start, break ground in Allen Township on a project called Willow Ridge, which is about 8-lot subdivision. So we have a on your lot. If you have a lot and you would like to investigate building a Keystone home, we have a division for that. But ultimately, what my responsibility is finding land, contracting land, going through the entitlement improvement process, and then managing the site work. So I'm very involved with all of these little details. And as a solicitor for zoning boards and doing this work for a long time, I know how strenuous it can be, especially for township staff. So I do appreciate Nate and all the work that his staff has put on there. We have met a couple times. And again, we just want to find out what the culture of the community is and how we best can integrate that. Again, we're more aspirational builders. We're not a first-time home builder company. We're a move-up company. So most of the houses that we are building are, for moderate-sized families or people who are at the later end stages of their home building, their home buying years. So we have a lot of communities that we develop, a lot of amenities that we develop. And we hired amenity directors recently, so all of our communities are having more touches of those type of tot lots and dog parks, all those things that a lot of traditional ones do. But we also try to preserve trees, and we try to have trails that interact with the community's trail system if they have them, so we become part of that community as well. That's enough about me and I think Keystone. We had this opportunity to invest in this project. Cindy Feinberg worked with one of our land acquisition managers and brought this project to us, and we've been investigating this and going through a lot of the early due diligence, but I would think at this point we're beyond our due diligence. We're contractually obligated to move forward on the project. We're attempting to get our preliminary plan in a very short order, and all the details and all the conversations we've had up until now has really helped us to start that process a bit early. So we have done tree surveys, we have done some preliminary pre-preliminary work that's going to help us with the preliminary plan once we get that ready to go. So that's about me, and I'll turn it over to Luke.
Yep. Thanks, Mickey. Luke Teller with Langen Engineering. I'm a senior project manager in our Doylestown office. Nate and Joe pretty much covered the gist of the site plan, but I'll cover some of the highlights of it. There are 84 single-family homes shown on the plan, currently with 2 access points to East Texas Road. The current plan shows some areas of conceptual stormwater basin locations in common open space areas. There's a mix of smaller, what I'll call smaller and larger footprints for the houses on the plan. About 31% are 40 feet by 60 feet, and 69% are 50 by 60. And we've assumed the maximum impervious coverage in our calculations. And so the minimum lot sizes for the smaller units are about 13,000 square feet. In the larger units, the minimum lot sizes are about 16,000 and change square feet. As was mentioned before, there is an emergency access drive to Celia and a sidewalk connection to Promise Lane. We obey the 100-foot turnpike buffer to the east. There's a number of waivers we have identified that we would ask for in our initial land development application. I can go through those now, or we can wait until the township engineer has a chance to speak. But those are kind of the highlights for the plan.
All right, great, thank you. Megan?
Hi, thank you. So I would say from the engineering perspective, our office did a thorough review of your sketch plan, and we do have the same points that Nate very nicely summarized earlier. So as far as those waivers, I would be curious to hear what your current list would be. But to emphasize the points that Nate did bring up, we have a hard time recommending that this move towards land development instead of another sketch plan until the stormwater is worked out a little bit more, and the existing karst features are, those setbacks are incorporated. We feel that those two key components will impact the layout of the development.
Okay. You have anything else?
I would say that especially without submitting the sketch plan, without a geotechnical report, which I see is referenced in one of the notes, it does make the layout, we would be interested what that geotechnical report said and how that justifies the layout. But our main concerns, again, as echoed, as Nate put earlier, were all summarized very nicely, but our main concerns are that layout in relation to the karst features as well as how the stormwater will discharge to neighboring sites.
Thank you for that feedback, Megan. Are there any comments, any questions from the Planning Commission, staff, consultants, anybody?
Were you able to supply the photographs of the
Oh, that's a good point. The
homes?
The homes.
Did you send?
Oh, I did send them to the secretary.
We have them. I can show the elevations, absolutely. And I would note, in reviewing those today, we do have design guidelines in the township, and it's important to note that what was submitted to us preliminarily does certainly appear to be compliant with our design guidelines. So.
While you're bringing those up, I'd like to open it up to the fellow Planning Commission members.
I have no questions at this time.
I think for just future sketches, what I would like to see, what's important to me is the forested areas, the preservation of as many trees and wooded areas. I'd like a clear definition on the common space, what it's actually used for. Is it really community space for residents to gather, to, hang out, chit chat, play, garden, whatever, or is it just a walkthrough? Is it a potential park? What is that common space? The other thing I will be interested to see is the path, as Nate said earlier, does abut to the other residential community, so possibly integrating that more inside of your specific lots. I think that would be better as well for your residents. And again, in reference to the environmental impacts, not only the stormwater, but like I wouldn't like to see all of this just clear cut and old growth taken down. And as far as your plantings for future sketches are concerned, I would heavily rely on native plantings.
So I can understand, I've heard 2 or 3 comments now about the path relocation. Is the concern that where it's shown now, existing residents nearby won't like the path where it's at? Is that the concern, or is there something else?
I think that, as if I were to be living right there, I think that would be one of my concerns, because it's kind of like in the back end of someone's backyard. So I think integrating it a little bit more inside of the development itself would probably be a better, use of it or recommendation.
Understood.
I see the pictures up there, and I was just driving by the house when I took a picture on my phone. So these aren't professionally done at all. I'm joking. So these are some of our homes that we built up. What I wanted to show here is our 40 and 50 foot wide models. This is a Covington Cottage home that just opened up in East Lampeter Township in Lancaster County. This was award-winning in Parade of Homes. We won several awards for the design innovation of that. I didn't choose to show you any interior photographs because obviously we'd be here all day. We have over 100,000 options that people can do. This is a Nottingham farmhouse. This is another award-winning project we won last year in the Parade of Homes in Lidditz, PA. And the next two are really Devonshires. That's a Devonshire Manor, and the next photographs, and also Devonshire. We call this our blown out Devonshire. So, those are designs are our number one seller that we have. The people like because of the square footage, because the look, the elevations, and whatnot. But again, we probably sell 60-70% of the Devonshire in all of our communities in Maryland and Pennsylvania. So very popular, and we're pretty good. It takes us roughly 60 to 90 days to build a home once we contract and go through it. So again, it's not just putting up framed walls that we got from some warehouse somewhere. All these things are done by local tradespeople, and we get pretty good at this. So. And we just opened up a Virginia branch this past year in Charlottesville. So we're pretty much a mid-Atlantic builder at the present time, and we've grown quite a bit over the last 4 or 5 years. I can't take any credit for it because I've only been there for 2, but we really enjoy our houses. And I would offer, if you are driving around to local communities, Fallbrook, our model house is open. And you can get a really good sense of who we are and what we do and the care that we take into it. And again, 90% of our profits go to National Christian Foundation and Hope International. And so when we call up our vendors and say, hey, why are you paying $50 for a hammer as opposed to $25? That $25 is something that could be invested in the hopes and dreams of someone who lives in underserved areas. So it's very important for us to make sure that we're getting good value here, because we churn that value to other people. So
just out of curiosity, the 2 homes that you just spoke about, what's the square footage of those?
It depends. It could be anywhere from 28 to 4,200, depending on how many blowouts and bump outs that they put, how many car garages they have. And we do some pretty crazy things. This gentleman in a community down near Chester, PA, he just put a golf simulator in his basement. So we had to put a 10-foot ceilings and all that kind of stuff. So we do some pretty cool things. Our biggest house in our portfolio in Maryland that we're building right now is 12,000 square feet. That would not go here. Actually, if you take our largest house, we put 2 of them together to kind of get to that thing. But we also do in some communities townhomes and villas and apartments, but that's a very small portion of our portfolio right now. We, again, are more of the move-up builders for single-family homes.
And these are roughly a third of an acre of parcel?
It can be slightly smaller depending on the zoning that we're enjoyed in different communities. And I will say that, I grew up in Maryland on a farm, and, land's important to me. I can tell you that over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen the metrics, and as the communities get a little bit smaller, it doesn't hurt sales, because I would say people who are roughly from my generation really choose not to want to mow lawns. So they're going outside and doing landscaping, whatever. They would rather go to communities that provide those services for them. This will be an HOA community. There will be an HOA managing it. I believe the roads will be owned by the HOA, so we're not offering those for dedication. The township wants them, great, but that's not what we're offering as part of our plan. When you'll see that in preliminary. So, the numbers and the density is important to help carry those costs. We will try to do our best to maintain the growth and the coverage there. Everything that we plant is native species. I don't think we really can get away with going through DEP and going through our permitting process without putting native species there. I think we signed a pledge for any type of endangered species that we're only building in certain times of the year, and all developers have to comply to that. That's not something that we're unique in that, but we did offer that as part of the review of our E&S plans.
All right, great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the public. If you have anything to say, please step up to the podium, state your name and your address. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad I can comment. It's Richard Lane, 4930 East Texas Road. So obviously, I am right there next to the development. We've been there since 1973. We were there before the present developments are there. I'm not against development, but I'll say some things from that over 50 years of being there and knowing the Deiberts and knowing the people who have resided there, knowing the history in detail going all the way back to the early 1800s. We live in an old home that was built in 1853 from the original Pennsylvania Dutch that came in late in the 1700s. That was all farmland at one point. There are three things that I have on my mind. I am sure that the housing itself is going to be very nice and very appropriate. Road itself is a real problem. You mentioned the turnpike. There's also Hidden Valley Road. There are already a number of fender benders, small accidents, where Hidden Valley intersects to the left or right with East Texas Road right there at the bridge. You've got a partial curve. The road had been improved maybe 15 years ago. What happened at that time is it increased all the speeds on the road because there used to be a big dip right where you have your exits coming out of the development. And so that was raised in general about 10 feet. And there's a drop off right there on either side. In Sandy, in 2012, the Deibert property was badly flooded. There was a lawsuit, which the township knows, and it lasted until that was settled. The stormwater arrangement was put through there. We have an easement on our property, actually right across from where the development is, for the stormwater easement. That handles most of the stormwater fairly well. I'm not sure that it really handles, and I know you're looking into that, the water that comes down off the hillside, not from the other side, from the turnpike, where it used to be the big problem. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of land that I've seen ever in this area, certainly in Lower Macungie. It is filled with wildlife of all sorts. We have every bird that comes to our property, every bird in eastern Pennsylvania. Of course, there are deer on the site. There are possums. There's every part of wildlife that you can think about. It's one of the few areas in Lower Macungie where there's easy access and life for the wildlife. My biggest concern, as you can hear already, is coming out onto East Texas Road. I only heard about this 15 minutes ago, to give you an idea. Living there 50 years, and I didn't hear about it until I saw it on my laptop. Where it intersects with East Texas Road, that's the most difficult section. It also is a speeding section from the hours of about 6 in the morning till about 6 at night. There's heavy traffic on that road because of Lehigh Valley Hospital and because of the developments that are already there. I've seen recently cars go by at close to 100 miles an hour, which gives you an idea. With that straight stretch, you can just run through there. It's wooded all along that section, which is not all that visible, anywhere from our property on down to the bridge over the turnpike. It is a karst area, as was mentioned. We've had sinkholes across from us. We've seen a number of sinkholes over the years. It's been farmed for many years, and those have all been taken care of. There was a sinkhole when we first moved in there. It was a bad design. It was a retention pond, and it was about the size of a small football field. That drained almost overnight, which gives you an idea what's under the ground there. There's an underground river there. We have water come through the property, but fortunately it's at a low end, and it runs down into the retention pond that's there. That serves very, very well. That was a redesign, and that's really good. So you can hear my main concern. It's the land. It's the land itself. It's one of the few wooded areas. It gets very, very heavy traffic, which is dangerous. Now there's a lot of electric bikes and bicyclists and tractor trailers. Everything comes through there. That has to be dealt with. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how you're going to work out the design. If it were running into some of the other areas of the development, that would give some access out of there. I'm not sure that everybody wants to be looking right and left on that road trying to get out. And these will be young families or middle-aged families, but with kids, certainly. And it is going to be a really dangerous area. I don't know how you're going to design for that. With that being, as I can see just by looking, with that being the main area of coming in and coming out. So I think that's the challenge. Not the building of the homes, not the design, but what are you going to do with the water and the underlying, karst structure of that? What are you going to do with the woodlands? What are you going to do basically with the overall health of the township? Because we really are built up. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with the development. I'm really concerned about East Texas Road and what's going to happen there. And that will have a long-term effect, as we know. We don't know what's going to happen with the Turnpike Bridge, how that's going to be done. But already it's a problem. So those are my comments at present.
Great, thank you. Anybody else from the public like to make a comment?
Hi, Ron Beutler, 5540 Lower McCungie Road. I'm about 0.6 of a mile from the project as the crow flies. The township's SALDO has an open space component that allows for 3 possible approaches to satisfy that requirement. It's a dedication of qualifying open space. I believe, at least from what I remember, it was 3,400 square foot per unit. It was a payment in cash in lieu of open space dedication, which I think was like $3,800 per unit, or it allowed for a combination of both. So my question for the planning director, I suppose, would be, which version of that requirement does this sketch plan reflect?
Well, we would need to determine whether or not, it's really up to the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners as to whether there's a discussion for dedication or the fee. So at the end of the day, we need to wait for a formal plan to come in and for the Planning Commission to review that, provide a recommendation to the board, and then for the board to deliberate on it as well.
So by default, then it would be the cash in lieu of, since it would be about, I mean, if that number of 3,400 square foot is still correct, that's what my recollection, that would be about 3,400 times 85 units is about 6 acres. So there's not 6 acres in this plan, right? So it would be probably and I'm not arguing neither nor at this point.
No, but the planning commission could recommend that the open space component be an option, just like the Board of Commissioners, when it would appear eventually before them, could note that they would like to see an open space component. It would really be up to the recommending body and the decision-making body on which they'd prefer to see.
So if they were to ask for a version of the plan, a sketch of the plan that reflects 6 acres of open space, that would look a little bit different than what we're seeing today.
Certainly. Yep.
Anybody else from the public?
Good evening, everyone. My name is April Fulham. I'm at 5120 Meadow Lane. 2 questions that I have. The first, you said that before anything moves further out of the sketch, that there'll be traffic patterns taken, looked at. And I live right off of Brookside in East Texas. Any given time of the day, I can sit at a light for 3 minutes on a good day. any time of the day, anytime around rush hour, I can't get out of my house. I go all different ways just to try and get to Hamilton Boulevard. If I want to go to the supermarket, it takes me 20 minutes to drive not even a mile and a half. 20 minutes. You're adding 84 more cars, 84 houses, so most people have 2 cars, so you're looking at 160 some odd vehicles coming out of the same street. I know that there was plans or money put aside to look at the traffic patterns at the Wawa, because you can sit at Costco to try and get to the Wawa, and that can take you a half an hour. And that's not an exaggeration, coming out of the Costco. So you're adding at least 160 more cars on a daily basis in and out, and it just is, until the lights can get timed, or until there's turning lanes, or it can get taken care of, how are you even looking at adding more to a problem that you know you already have? Second part of this conversation, that's 84 more houses. I live right behind the transfer station, which nobody really talks about. We've contacted the EPA on numerous occasions. I can't sit on my back deck anymore. It smells so bad. So they're fixed to that. The EPA came out, so they put on these high jet fans with misting things to mask the smell, because you can't stand the smell. Now the noise, one or the other you're getting. I can't sit outside in my backyard at any time of the day. On a Monday, it's the worst, because I guess they get all their trash and garbage from Dorney Park, and it sits there. It's supposed to just transfer out. My boyfriend said that when he first moved into that house, it was just construction waste, and it was dry. It wasn't any garbage. And now it's really, really bad. So you're adding 84 more houses to that transfer station as well, assuming that HOA is still going to be part of getting the trash collection the same way everybody else in the township does? Or is it something separate?
We haven't determined that at this point. Again,
Okay.
we're very preliminary. But as we go forward and start talking to the township, depending on what type of carrier we're to have, I mean, HOAs usually have their own private carrier that manages the entire project.
Because I've only ever seen one carrier up here, unless I'm mistaken. But is it WM is the only one that the township deals with, or is there multiple?
Yeah, so Waste Management does have a contract for the township. However, private communities contract their own waste hauler.
Okay.
If it would be Waste Management, it's not a contract with the township, but they contract their own waste hauler.
Okay. So any development that's proposed here in this township, they have their own, that they can use that, or they can use something else?
Only if it's a private community, they would
So if the
contract their own waste hauler.
streets are dedicated, then it's city.
If all services are public, then they would be covered by the Waste Management contract for the township.
Okay.
But at this point, they're proposing a private community.
Okay, thank you. But as far as the traffic goes, what is the time frame of getting a traffic study done just for what we have now, besides the fact of what they want to add to it?
I could say we are imminently ready to do our traffic study. It's support of our preliminary plan for the project.
But I'm
which
saying there's-
has to look at different intersections and different coverages that.
Right, and you don't know this, but living here, there's already a problem. You're coming into a problem, but the problem that's there now, in the last, I would say, 3 years, has gotten a lot worse. When we heard about the Topgolf going in, we thought, oh, where are they going to put all these cars? You can't get to Costco, you can't get home.
A traffic study will be required for if the project moves into a preliminary or final plan.
Is there a traffic study in place just in general now?
It is not part of the sketch plan.
No, I
requirements.
understand that, but I'm saying, is there, as far as the township goes, is there already one for that area, for the new, I thought it was grant money, I read somewhere that was going to come into play about getting the timing of the lights done and traffic patterns?
I would need to check with my office,
Okay,
with the township.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right.
Chris has some more comments.
All right, Chris?
Hi. Just want to go over my quick notes, which pretty much matched with what Megan and with Nathan. My comments are related to the questions on stormwater management, also the preservation of the trees, as well as the path, And also the karst issues, we want to get a good handle on that because it does fall under zoning.
Any other township officers like to say anything? Commissioners, planning commissioners? Do you feel like you've gotten all your answers that you came looking for?
It's a lot to think about. I don't think we have any questions at this point.
No questions.
Thank you for the feedback.
No questions.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Lane, do you have another comment?
This is very brief, but there's a history of iron mining in the township, and I think when the waste station was mentioned, I think that's an old iron mine. I don't know about that geology, but I do know that there was a big industry in that area in the 1800s, and there's a lot of history about that. So that's another feature that you might want to look into and see what the geology is in relation to iron mining and, filling in that kind of thing. I know there was a mink farm there at one time in the 40s. There's a whole bunch of things that had gone on there, but the township was totally different, as we know, 35, 40 years ago. Thanks.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, we appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you very much.
and
We appreciate it,
talking to
too.
you about this project. Look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Next order of business is 1170 Grange Road, the Red Maple Acres Mobile Home Park Land Development. I'd like to invite the applicants to come up. So we do have, were you on the board when they were out here last? No. Okay, so we do have a new board member. Were you here?
Nope.
Okay, we have two new board members, commissioners. So after Nate gives his presentation, I'd like you to just reintroduce the project to us. Sure. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Nate?
Yes, thank you, sir. This is a project that's been with the township for a while now. It was originally reviewed last summer as well. It's the extension of the pre-existing Red Maple Acres mobile home community off of Grange Road. The applicants are proposing, and you can see it here if you're watching from home, an extension of the mobile home community for a number of new pad units that would be on a separate lot, with the inclusion of a new trail network that would travel through the lot down to Grange Road and eventually to Hamilton Boulevard. Last summer, we discussed such important matters that included stormwater management for the site. This is a tricky watershed area, as anyone knows in the township, because of the way that it flows and the bypass and whatnot, but the applicants did begin putting together plans to mitigate that stormwater impact. One of the items that we've been talking about since last summer and continue is just ensuring that the life safety matters from both fire departments in Upper Macungie and Lower Macungie are comfortable with it, just because we want to always ensure that life safety can get into the site. This is an older development, so we want to make sure that the larger apparatus can maneuver in there. The new development does have a strong level of turning radii in space. It's really just getting through the existing to the back, but we need verification from those life safety folks that they are comfortable with it. We've also been looking at sewer service for the site because it is a private site. So that's another item that's been looked at. But again, from a planning perspective, there is a complement in the plan that was submitted that it's a pretty generous landscape architecture plan that includes new plantings. And again, we do have a proposed trail that does provide pedestrian and cyclist connectivity for these residents down to Hamilton Boulevard, where there's plenty of places to shop, eat, and catch public transportation as necessary. There are streetlights that are proposed for nighttime lighting. And the applicants did provide last summer some elevations of proposed residences, which I can also show here really quickly. And those residences, as I pull them up, they do have a higher resolution. After discussions with the applicants, we did talk about our design guidelines, and again, they were working previously to ensure that the new units would meet our design guidelines at the township with the cladding, the roof lines, so on and so forth. So again, I would like to hand it over to both Chris and to Megan to talk about some of the more technical and zoning related issues for the site. But this is something that, again, we've had on deck now for about a year, and we have been working closely with the applicants on.
All right, Chris?
I think I'm actually going to defer until actually to see if there's any updates and then maybe chime in after the fact, if that's okay.
That's fine. I'd like to give the opportunity to the applicants to introduce the project.
Sure. Eric Schock from Fitzpatrick, Lenz and Buba. I'm the attorney.
Sorry, Mark Luth, Lehigh Engineering.
And Lou Rock from Lehigh Engineering.
As was mentioned, this is project started out, I guess, about close to a year ago, maybe a little bit more. Brief history is, as was mentioned, this is an existing park. At one point, there was actually an approval of a plan for units on this last section of undeveloped land. 2 owners ago, that approval lapsed, and the park was sold to what is now the prior owner, which was the owner in place when we first started this project about a year ago. That it has now been transferred again, and the new owner is interested in still pursuing the project. We went to the zoning board, and we did get relief to effectively what I would call match the density of the existing park and the layout of the existing park with the new extension. So in that regard, it's as we've shown it now is similar to the rest of the park, and I think where we've settled on. As was mentioned, there have been a few items that have come up because we do require conditional use approval for the extension under the ordinance. We've been trying to work through some of the issues that we knew from staff and from Planning Commission and the commissioners were interested in having us address prior to going to the conditional use and ultimately for that preliminary plan. We've received the review letters, and while we're working through the transition with our client and to kind of jumpstart this again, there are a few items that we wanted to talk about in the letters, if we could, to probably get some clarity to the extent it's languished a little bit, but also we can give an update on some of the items that Mr. Jones mentioned with respect to those open items that we started work on probably back in, I think it was probably back in March or April, correct? So if we could, in Mr. Jones's letter, do you want to talk about the comment on the walkways in the past? Because we want to try to finalize that item, correct? As best we can, obviously knowing that we ultimately need approval, but we want to make sure we're on the bad pun right path.
Could you call up the plan that shows kind of the paths and the trails?
This is the most recent one that shows the walkway change that was submitted several weeks ago.
That one's good. That one's good enough. What we're proposing is when we first came in and what was originally approved 2 owners ago, as Eric mentioned, it was laid out with the roadways that were 22 feet wide, and it didn't have the pathways. We came back with the plan and had some discussions last year at the Planning Commission as to what the Planning Commission, how they felt comfortable-wise, road width-wise. We do provide for 3 parking spaces for each of the homes, but as far as getting a walking path to it, what we came away with, or at least what we felt everybody kind of was in agreement with, was we got a 24-foot wide road now through this section, and we have a walking path, a 4-foot walking path, that is separated by a 4-foot grass strip of the roadway. That green area would be the grass strip along the walkway. And I think everybody seemed to be comfortable with that, and we still had enough of the parking spaces for all the units there. We're also proposing a walking path around the perimeter of the old park, which is where the hand is now going around, that we're proposing to put in around the perimeter of the old park. That brings you from the new park all the way down to Grange Road. And it was brought to our attention last year when we were here that there's two developments between our property and Hamilton Boulevard. And both of those properties have now, I believe the one right at the intersection has a macadam walkway along Grange Road. And the next property was putting in a concrete walkway in front of theirs. So we agreed that we would extend the walkway along Grange Road as well. So that we would be putting in a walkway along Grange. Now, we don't own the full frontage of Grange Road. There's a couple out parcels in the middle that we don't have control over, but other than that, we agreed to put a walkway along Grange to the front. And we also have on there that we were going to put in a few small pavilions in the front at the entrance, right in that area for the residents at the park.
Appreciate the connectivity to the other properties on Grange. As noted last summer, we wanted to make sure that there was cyclist and pedestrian access to Hamilton Boulevard. I guess my only comment at this point in time would be I understand that the land development activity is occurring at the rear of the site. We do have pathway proposed now at this point in time right up against the edge of the site. As you can see here, I believe Mr. Russo will want to talk about some zoning related items potentially, but if we could get access for the residents of the existing park to this path as well, I think it would be important if it's possible. Just one or two connection points, because right now, I mean, however many units there are there, I don't know how easy it'll be for them to get to that path, where other people might just end up walking through undesignated areas if they're trying to get to it. So generally, I don't know if that's an easy or reasonable request, maybe at the end of this cul-de-sac here or something, just.
And I think at the end of it seems like an easy extension to get to the walkway.
Yeah, we just always find that if a path doesn't provide for any connectivity, people find their own way. And we don't want to make sure we're not getting phone calls about people passing through where they're not supposed to go, so.
Yeah, I certainly think that's a reasonable request.
All right, so I think we'll take away from this that looks pretty good, and we'll look for a couple of places to get the residents out.
Okay. What other questions do you have?
Oh, go ahead.
We're going to give them grading cross sections of walkways.
Yeah, I think through the letter, there was some comments as far as grading and cross sections, which we were going to have to do as part of the plan where the walkways going through as far as locating trees, cross sections for grading of all of those aspects where it goes through. That's all just part of the design aspect of it.
So the next item in that letter was from Mr. Jones was the last sentence in the stormwater management section. You wanted to have a discussion about that, correct?
I think the concern there is the infiltration beds that line between the units in the expansion. I mean, we don't feel from a planning standpoint that they're in imminent danger in a heavy rain event, being as that it's an underground detention with just a small bubbling overflow, and these homes actually sit in some cases 30 to 36 inches above the ground, so they have 3 foot of clearance with the skirting component to the home. And of course, we have to take these facilities and run them through the normal review agencies, including LVPC. So, I mean, we're prepared to defend the design at that point.
And that the design that's here was a design that was approved stormwater-wise through Act 167 and the LVPC through the previous township, before it lapsed and there was an active NPDES permit that was approved through DEP with it. So, the stormwater design with it was at one time approved. The project had its full study as far as karst studies and all those things associated with it. So some of those things need to get updated. Obviously, they're getting a little old now, but all those things were looked at one time.
You say the NPDES permit is active? I'm sorry. Of course. You say the NPDES permit is active?
Yes. Yes. The permit is still active.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we would certainly defer to the township engineer on the technicality of it. I would just note it's very rare in site design to see the edge of a stormwater management feature go right up to a structure that's used for commercial or residential purposes. So it is very close, and we just wanted to make note of that. And as always, we just, as discussed with the last application, we're just very mindful of stormwater related and karst related items in the township, or we need to be. So we rely on the township engineer to work with you on that to make sure that it meets standards. And, if we need be, we'll also work with the Conservation District. We have a very good working relationship with them as well. So.
Next item, and that is one of the items that we've been working on, which is the fire lane through the development. So back on May 11th, we submitted one. I believe we got a comment back that you need to use a different turning template, correct?
Yeah, the fire truck we chose was not the largest truck in the fleet.
The township.
Correct. It was Upper Macungie, and we have forwarded this all along to Upper Macungie because they could be servicing the site. So it's right on the municipal boundary. So we want to make sure both Upper and Lower Macungie fire departments are comfortable with everything for the benefit of the residents and the developer, just with having both services come in. So the Upper Macungie plan has been sent to them for their review. We just need one, and our fire marshal needs one on his end for review.
Yeah. Do you want to just explain to the planning commission what you generally did to try to address that so they understand the concept? Because obviously the new section is at the back. This did not exist through the old section, and the existing units create some impediments to providing a brand new path. You can't cut through people's houses to try to do this. So what you did was map out one that uses existing locations and as best possible to maximize the width, correct?
Yeah, exactly. You try to find the most efficient way to get to the rear of the park, and without having too many turns. And I think what we've come up with here is, if you look where it comes in off Grange Road, we turn onto that road where we turn and go straight to the north actually has a couple of pinch points in it that are very, very, it's very tight, but we're going straight and not proposing any turns. So when we do get to the areas where we turn, we seem to have enough room to make the radii work with the turning templates that we're able to generate. I mean, you can get to the rear, and at the rear in the newer phase, or the newest proposed phase, they seem to operate with relative ease.
And you provided the extra widths near the hydrants, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we've got that submitted. We just need comments back now that we've got the right truck size. One of the other items Mr. Jones mentioned, and we submitted on that same May 11th, the inspection report for the private sewer.
Yeah, in fact, I was just in contact earlier with the previous owner, and he had thought he had given us the video. We only have a written inspection of the lines. He emailed me back tonight and says he's going to try to get me that video of the inspections.
So
they did it as part of their due diligence when buying the park.
Yeah, and that was of all the mains, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
The entire park?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that, knock on wood, that one should be, the feedback we got should be addressed, because we'll be able to get a video of that system.
For some reason, that video does not become available. Our client who purchased the park is used to the situation in parks with aging sanitary sewer lines. I would simply suggest to him that I utilize the same company that did it for ARC's management to do it again for him and provide him with video this time. And we'll link that as part of the, the land development.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so I was just commenting to Vince that the ordinance now requires you to do the video every 10 years anyway, so he's going to have to do that anyway.
Okay.
So if it wasn't done by the seller, I guess you could say, then they're going to have to do it anyway 10 years from last year. Is that when we enacted it? At the end of last year, right? So if they do it now, they're satisfying their requirements. So I would suggest that if the video doesn't exist, it's probably going to be a condition, I would assume, that you do it now. Yeah.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
And then I think it's mentioned in the zoning and in the engineer's letter, we did have discussions resolving what we think is the question of that buffer along the Home Depot land. So I think the plan as we now have it laid out, we think is sufficient and wouldn't need relief under that. So anything else then in the zoning or engineer's letters that you needed to discuss?
I think the only thing was that they also asked for a traffic study, which was supplied as well.
And we did supply the traffic study. I don't think we got a separate review letter on that, did we?
Not yet.
No.
Was that reviewed? Traffic study?
Yes, so it was a traffic impact assessment as opposed to a study, and it conveyed what we thought it would, where the additional homes do not create a big impact on the area.
Yeah, I think it's an additional 9 trips a day.
In the morning, A and B.
Okay.
So we'll take that as a positive for us. Is that it then, guys? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I don't think there were a lot of, most of the stuff we can comply with, at least in terms of this letter and the letter. There were some of the bigger ones we just wanted to make sure that we were going on the right track in terms of 24-foot with the grass strip and the way we had things laid out, that we can continue on and add in the rest of the walking path and work with any stormwater issues. But, yeah, everything seems to be pretty.
And we know it's sat for a year, and then everybody's trying to dust off. We have 2 new folks that didn't see it before, and we were trying to remember where we left off. So.
That was a challenge, too.
We were working for somebody else, too, at the time.
I sent a lot of emails.
That. I've been looking at this since I've been here. I've been asking Vincent, what is this project? And thank you for bringing it to our attention and answered all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the new owner won't let it sit for another year, I can tell you that. So he's hot to try.
Megan, do you have anything else you want to bring up?
I would just say that we still stand by the comments in our letter from last year, especially those related to stormwater. And of course, we would want to hear back from the fire marshal about access to that area. And the video is a necessary thing for us, for the sewer, sanitary sewer.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Jen, do you have anything?
I just think the most important thing is the life safety aspect, so for the fire.
Exactly.
Marshal approvals.
Yeah, we knock on wood, we think we've got something that works. Obviously taking into account that we kind of played with the hand we're dealt in that existing park, so.
Understood.
I think some, if I'm not mistaken, too, was I think the previous owner made some upgrades just as far as like street signing and those type things within the development that I think was lacking from the old owner, just as far as them being able to find addresses and get through the park and find where the emergency may be happening. Seemed to be lacking before the previous owner had it.
Okay.
Yeah, we discussed like a fire emergency route signing that would to go on that particular path that we've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And then up to management, whether they limit whatever can happen in that route.
Okay. Anybody from the public would like to say something? Okay, Chris or Vince?
Yeah, if I could, I just want to back up to the comment on the buffers. I don't know if you guys were going to submit something showing that required buffer along the district boundary line, or you had made a comment that you thought that comment in my letter, comment number 5, was addressed, but I didn't see it on the plan that we have. So I didn't know if that meant you were going to include that in the future.
We're going to include that. We're going to.
That's something we have to discuss. Yeah. It was an old issue. Yeah. So Eric and I have, to answer your question, Chris, Eric and I have discussed that issue. It was sort of discussed in combination with the fire access issue.
Okay.
So we can talk further about how to address that. Maybe we will, I don't know if we need to put I don't know how we're going to address it. Why don't we talk about it and then I can talk, but it should be addressed formally, I guess.
Well, we can figure out the best way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we appreciate you guys coming back in, and we know how close you are, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, 5.3, proposed zoning and Saldo ordinance revisions / amendments.
Yes, thank you, sir. While everybody's clearing out here, I just wanted to make sure that we covered a couple of the larger points with respect to what we're trying to achieve here. If everybody can recall, we undertook a number of administrative zoning amendments last fall that really didn't modify any land use policies for the township. They really kind of just changed certain portions of the language so that the intent of the ordinance was being executed, and it was really making sure that we were giving our staff the right tools that they need, both through enforcement as well as through their reviews of projects and permits that come in. So we are actually looking at a very similar situation right now where we're looking to modify ordinance specifically to provide our staff with the right tools that are necessary, and also looking at where we're at as in the phase of the development of the township and where we are currently proceeding forward with a lot of active land preservation and whatnot, how the future development will occur within the township, and making sure that our zoning and Saldo meet that challenge when the time comes. We've had some discussions, and tonight we feel, given the fact that we did make a couple of more staff recommended modifications since the last version of this very draft language went out of pending ordinance, that we just try and talk about some feedback from the Planning Commission so that we can better craft it so that you're comfortable with it and not ask you for any form of a recommendation tonight. Really just try to get your feedback and make sure that you feel that you have a high level of comfort with it. Again, this is draft pending ordinance language, so it really has no standing yet. It's not voting to be advertised. It's really just us trying to get feedback. And with that, if you would indulge me, we were thinking about just going through each section briefly to tell you what it is that we're trying to do. So the first one is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, which is our design guidelines and architectural grade cladding. And if you look at our planning related documents through our design guidelines, through the Hamilton Boulevard corridor plan, through our historic preservation documents that we have and that the Historic Preservation Society has, there's always a discussion about maintaining historic as well as architectural integrity in the township. And when you look at our historic structures, they always tend to include brick, stone, or hardy board, old school planking, basically, which, you know, in modern times looks like Dutch lap, but, you know, it's basically what they used to use back then. And so we're trying to continue that ethic, especially along Hamilton Boulevard, where so much time was spent by our predecessors in providing proper planning efforts for it. And so one of the recommendations here at this point in time is basically noting that the stucco materials that have been used in the past aren't within that design element, in that historic element. It's not what our historic structures really had on them. And also trying to maintain some level of, I don't want to say uniformity, but character of design along the boulevard. This is really specifically for our commercial areas and our village areas. The design guidelines and architectural grade cladding do apply to the rest of the township, but at the end of the day, we're really focused on Hamilton Boulevard, the gateway on Route 100 going into Macungie Borough, which is a historic community that we share a municipal boundary with, and then our village areas where we do have some of those historic zones. So that really is just the definition. It's just a simple definition change in the zoning language. We're also recommending tightening up pathway and sidewalk definition, and that's just for as we review Saldo applications, making sure that the language is uniform. We're going to be working closely with the solicitor's office to look at all that language in zoning and Saldo to just make sure that it's solid. We did note, again, if you look at the section that says 27-1705, this is actually sections that apply to mobile homes and mobile home manufactured subdivisions, similar to what we just reviewed. One thing that we like to do at the staff level is make sure that zoning and Saldo always match. So that's all we're really trying to do here, so that there's no disconnect between the two ordinances. So when Chris is reviewing it and Vince is reviewing it, Megan and Brian are reviewing it, myself reviewing it, everybody's looking at the same thing, and the expectations are the same in Saldo and in zoning. No other changes other than that. If you move on to the next page, I'd actually like to invite Chris to speak to a couple of these if he's comfortable doing so, because these are items that he sees on a regular basis. And this would involve the use of home occupations in the township, as well as speaking to solar panels that we get applications for, and fences and walls that we deal with, because this is something Chris deals with on a regular basis. And I think he can put it in much better words than I ever could.
Sure, thanks, Nate. Let's start with the item there for the home occupation. Just wanted to put that in place so that somebody can't say they're doing a home occupation in their garage or like in an accessory structure, to keep everything within the site of the dwelling. There is a section here that we were talking about for the fences. One thing I deal with quite often is the location of fences. Based upon what community you're in, they're very different. Sometimes they can be placed on the line, sometimes they have to be so many feet off the line. What we've been running into is issues where if we have two abutting property owners and they both decide, to place the fence 2 feet from the property line, then you have a 4-foot swath of property that nobody maintains, and then we get complaints, and then we get neighborly arguments over whose responsibility it is. We all kind of agreed that it would be best to change that to allow owners to place fences up to the property line. That way, they're placed up to the edge of their line, and they're responsible for the maintenance on the inside of that fence. Trying to think of whichever one. To speak on the solar panels, solar's becoming more and more popular nowadays, and there are limits in our zoning ordinance on the amount of kilowatts, which I feel is really low. Nowadays, people are looking to bring in as much power as possible, so we need to edit that, because most of your solar projects for residential are quite large. So we're just looking to change that section. There's another section here about accessory structures. We basically want to set height limits for accessory structures on commercial properties. That has come up a couple times. The current ordinance is silent on that. They just talk about yard requirements. They don't talk about the height. So we want to try to get a grasp on the height for accessory buildings for that. Moving down the list here, the outdoor storage containers, shipping containers and pods. There is a section in there that says it has to be placed on the street. We definitely don't want shipping containers placed out in the public right-of-way, so we're looking to change that to allow people the opportunity to get a temporary permit if they need a shipping container or a pod to move or to store something short-term. We can work with them and get them a temporary 30-day permit, but it has to be stored on private property. Am I missing anything, Nathan, on the zone?
Good.
All right, I'll pass it back.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it. And moving right along then, two of the items that we also wanted to talk about that are kind of planning policy related, but it does kind of address our build-out status as a community. The first is our planned coordinated commercial and coordinated industrial developments. So this is something that's been in the ordinance for some time, and it allows for two principal uses on the same lot. Particularly in a commercial zone where we've seen that enjoyed in the past. You have two primary users on the same lot for a commercial use. I won't call out any specifically. One thing that we've noticed over the years is that due to market conditions, potentially, or finding tenants or challenges, everything's not done cohesively at the same time. And we're really feeling at this point in time, especially given the fact that we're seeing a lot of redevelopment on Hamilton Boulevard, as opposed to fresh development, that it may be wise to have it be a necessity to go back to a single user or single lot per land development, just because we've seen where some people are juggling it, depending on market conditions, it could be difficult to see the whole project get finished, and it could languish for a number of years. And it would be much better to see them one at a time as we have a user and we know something is going to come in at that time, get the public improvements, and be able to close the project out. So that's really just kind of a housekeeping thing more so than a policy related. It just makes sure that our process goes as efficiently and smoothly as possible. And then likewise after that, we have the open space neighborhood development, which has been in place for a number of years now. And when you look at the provisions of those developments, there are lot size standards that are necessary, and lots of that size in the township, due to the township's aggressive land preservation, as well as our build-out status, really don't exist all that much anymore. So finding lots that would qualify for that type of development don't exist in the township easily anymore. As we always say, a lot of the easy pieces of land are gone for development. And also, one thing that we did put in place, which was talked about with the sketch application, is one of the major provisions of the open space subdivision was the netting out of natural features and easements. And we felt that it would be wise at the township level to require that in all subdivisions moving forward, specifically for the fact that you have a situation where there are a number of lots that are either in flood zones or they have natural related features on them, and those should be netted out to begin with, whether you're doing an open space subdivision or not. So we are recommending that that be considered for, at this point, retirement, just because of where we're at as a township. We would like your feedback on that at some point in time. With the Saldo, again, those are subdivision and land development ordinance modifications. It's really some housekeeping. Again, sketches staying in-house because they're not legally binding. No reason for mass distribution for those. And in the review, making sure that the Department of Community Development and the Township Engineer are the parties reviewing. And then, of course, you see here, we were talking about pathways, and that, just like with our other language for the mobile homes communities, ensuring that those are matching in both Saldo and in zoning, so that it's comprehensive across the board. And another item that we've found, which really came at the recommendation of the Township Engineer's Office, was when it comes to grading, making sure that there's a 5-foot limitation to property lines for grading. That way there's space in between. That limitation of 5-foot grading from the property line will make sure that when items such as underground utilities or other elements that go right up against the property line, or someone is hypothetically putting in a pool, you're not seeing grading immediately up to someone else's property line. It basically is a grading buffer, and that's respectful of being a good neighbor at the end of the day. Last but not least, we have the discussion here for our performance standards for karst features. And again, that's just really reinforcing are setbacks to ensure for health, safety, and welfare purposes of any of those geologic items that are listed in the township's ordinance when it comes to sinkholes and closed depressions are respected. So there's no infringement on those, and it minimizes risk. It minimizes risks for new development, new housing, and existing homeowners, including someone who's looking to potentially improve their own property, that they don't get too close to a geologic feature. Last but not least, and I did mention that, that goes down to items such as oil, gasoline, salt, chemical storage, et cetera, again, being kept away from those areas, just because we've had to deal with them after big storms, or sometimes they'll open up on their own, and we just don't want to see hazardous materials or other related items being anywhere near those geologic features. So I would welcome your feedback. I'm sure Chris and Vince would welcome your feedback. Again, this is just, we're trying to keep it in housekeeping and making sure that we are being as effective and efficient as possible for you.
Thank you for your hard work on this and your thorough explanation. Rick, do you have anything?
Questions? No.
Jen?
Did you say me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I don't think I have any questions. I think you've explained it pretty well. And I think my only concern, as I feel like everybody might know, is the removal of the open space. But I do feel that it's important that we consider to preserve as much land as we can. And I think that we all know that, and I think it might, we just have to hold ourselves and any future projects accountable for that preservation within each development. So if the ordinance needs to change, or if this is going to impact, if removal of this language is going to impact any other ordinances, I'm sure you guys have already looked at that, but it's a triple checking type thing to make sure that we're not missing a loophole. That's all.
And Nate, when do you expect an answer from us on these?
I would ask, now that you have the explanation, just look it over. I mean, if you have any feedback now, great. If not, and you take it home and you review it, please just email it to me. We're trying to keep it moving so we don't lose too much time. But I would ask, within a week or so, if you could get it to us. Mark, perfect. Would that be an appropriate time frame?
Perfect. A week's great. You're going to see these again. They'll go to a workshop. We will have ask the board to authorize the final product. It's going to look different when you see it the next time. It's going to look like a formal ordinance. Language cleanup, any changes from your feedback, from the township engineer, from staff. And then after it's authorized for advertisement, we would send it back so you can see the final product and recommend approval at that point.
Thank you.
Okay.
My only comment is there's some instances where I think it's a little bit vague, and I know, Mark, you're going to get your hands on this to close up some of those loopholes, but for example, stucco and similar materials, I think it deserves a little bit more substance to classify what is a similar material. And then there's another, I can't find it right now, but it said like a walking path, a pathway, usually constructed of asphalt. And I don't know if that's opening up chances for developers to say like this is a grass path. And I don't think that's the intention of the zoning ordinance. I think we want something hardscape, concrete, asphalt. I can't think of any other ones, but that's my comment for that.
Yeah, I think in relation to that directly, we're marrying these two definitions from our Chapter 21, which is our streets and sidewalks, which specifically addresses pathway, defines pathway and sidewalk. So that's what we're looking to do. Yes, 100%, we do not want someone to put in a grass pathway like we saw earlier tonight. So that's all the cleanup, to your point, all the cleanup that we're going to be looking at and making here that, to definitely make sure our definitions across our ordinances are the code, per se, match up. So
great, thank you. Once again, thank you for your hard work on this, and it looks great. So,
Thanks. I would really like to also thank Chris and Vince. You know, we've been working together on this as a team, and Mark, everybody's been working on it together as a team, so.
Okay. If there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to 5.4, Staff Department Report.
Yeah, the only major report that I have is we don't have anything that's headed immediately to the board for pending approval. We actually, Vince, do you want to talk about Schenkel, or I can? That's some good news for us.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nate. So just want to let everybody know, the Schenkel subdivision was recorded and the township also recorded. After lengthy, discussion with the owner, we have a conservation easement on both properties, one roughly 90 acres and the other roughly 30 acres. So that is permanently conserved. That will not be built on, and that is at 6724 Mountain Road. It's at a corner of roughly about Shanick and Mountain Road. So we worked a long time, started by Nathan, on that work. So finally saw it come to fruition about 2 years later. So it's a great win for the township.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Nate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody in the public have anything to say?
I wasn't here when the conversation of, I believe, Delps Farm transpired into the development. It was referred to as Delps Farm, East Texas.
Are we allowed to take comments after the applicants are gone?
Why don't you just talk to one of the staff members from the township? They can fill you in if you'd like. Or do you want to make comment on the?
Well, I mean, I'm just.
I'm sorry, can you just come up to the microphone, please? Just state your name and address first.
Yeah, I'm Steve Krupp. I live at 1750 Mine Site Road. See a few familiar faces in here. But I just have concerns. I've lived in this township for the last 16, 17 years. I live where I live now for the last 15 years. And I just continue to see the farmlands disappear with mass amounts of people moving in, which is fine. My problem is there is no continuity between our township and our school district. We, if you do not know by now, are flooded to the maximum capacity that East Penn School District can handle. My taxes for the last 3 years have continued to go up with pretty much nothing in return. I have major concerns about continuing to allow developing in our township. I think we need to really strongly take a strong look at, putting some things into effect that would encompass all of these things that we've been just talking about while I've been sitting here, and limit the amount of developed space. There's a lot of neighboring areas. You go down to Spinnerstown, you go down to, I can't think of the name of it right offhand, down by the Peppercorn Pub. They limit it. You can't subdivide property down there under, I think it's 2 acres. I'm not saying we need to maybe go that extreme, but this used to be such a beautiful area. It's drawn so many people here because of that. And I'm concerned about, the continuing of developing of this area. My daughter has went all the way through Emmaus' school system, and I'm a graduate from Parkland. I came to Emmaus with the expectation that 25 or 26 years ago, when I graduated from Parkland after they built their brand new beautiful school, that Emmaus would have stepped up at some point in the last, 18, 19 years and put forth something. So there's a major disconnect, and I understand that you as Lower Macungie Township individuals don't have control over that. I get it. But somehow we got to work this thing out. you're talking about no more spaces to preserve because, let's face it, there's none left. I mean, that's the reality. Where are we going to build the new school? That should be our number one question in this township, in my opinion. In this school district, this township, where are we putting a new school? Nothing else should be even discussed at this point when we're talking about the future of this township, this school district, and the future of the kids that we all probably have going through it or have had going through it. It's frustrating to me as a father, as a taxpayer, as a wrestling coach, actually. Like I'm very involved with our school system and trying to give back, and it's very frustrating to see that we do not have the space that we need for our kids. And we're talking about putting subdivisions in all over the place that are going to just breed more kids. And that's the whole idea. I get it. We can't take away the taxpayer person's opportunity to sell their land, but could we maybe put some kind of restrictions on it that we're talking about, but maybe on a larger scale? I mean, do we really need to continue to invite more people here and not have the space to provide to them to let their kids flourish and move forward? Because my kids are going to barely make it out at this point. The next generation of kids that are coming through that are going to be moving into all these new houses, I don't know where they're going to go. We're talking about rearranging and organizing the school differently and spending millions of dollars to do that. I just think collectively, Lower Macungie Township, Emmaus Borough, Macungie, Albertus, all these different municipalities got to get together and figure this thing out because we are busting at the seams. I don't think we should build one more house, one more commercial building in our township until we have a plan. I'm not talking just an idea or like talking about it, but like a plan. Like even if it's a 15 or 20-year plan, there's been nothing. I've gotten in front of the school board and I've talked to different people in the school district. There is zero plan to do anything about a new school for our school district. I mean, that's where my frustration's coming from. But I don't know what transpired. I can gladly talk to one of these guys if that's what you would prefer me to do. But that's why I came down here. Sorry I'm late. I was working, so.
That's no problem. I encourage you to
talking.
Me.
There's a weird accent.
They will be coming back in the next few months. The agendas are posted on the website, I think, the prior Friday.
Correct.
This meeting is being recorded, so I encourage you to watch the video so you can see what they did say. They were questioned a lot by the township as well as the township engineer. But thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to do something about it so that everybody, is going in the same direction, and I don't know. But you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. There's nothing else. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. The July 14th, 2026 Lower Macungie Township Planning Commission meeting is adjourned at 7:39. Thank you, everyone.